The final moments in the bridal suite should have been filled with calm anticipation. Instead, my Aunt Patricia's voice cut through the quiet like shattering glass. "Did you really buy your dress off the clearance rack? I can see the loose thread from here." She said it just loud enough for my bridesmaids and nearby relatives to hear. My cousin's cruel laugh followed. "At least she's consistent. Cheap dress, cheap venue, cheap groom." Heat flooded my cheeks as I stood frozen, the delicate lace of my gown suddenly feeling like a costume for their ridicule. I gripped my bouquet of wildflowers until the stems threatened to snap. They had no idea what was about to arrive. My name is Sophia. For 26 years, I was the artsy outlier in a family that worshipped at the altars of status and luxury. While my brother became a high-powered lawyer and my sister married into old money, I became a middle school art teacher. My salary was modest, but my life was rich in purpose and joy, a currency my family couldn't comprehend. Their mantra, "Why can't you be more like your sister?" was a refrain that had worn me down from a sharp pain to a dull, constant ache. 2 years ago, I met Daniel at a community pottery class. He was calm, kind, and genuinely interested in the world beyond balance sheets. He worked as a consultant, he said, always vaguely. He lived in a simple apartment, drove a dependable but unremarkable car, and valued experiences over extravagance. He felt like a sanctuary. When we got engaged, my mother's congratulation was a backhanded frost. "He seems nice, but where's his ambition?" They dismissed our wedding vision, an intimate garden ceremony with personal vows and homemade touches, as budget and unimpressive. At a strained planning dinner 2 weeks prior, my aunt had smiled with saccharine pity. "We know you're doing your best with limited resources. We won't judge." The word limited hung in the air, defining me in their eyes. The morning of my wedding, the silent treatment was its own message. I discovered via social media that my entire family was at an elegant brunch, toasting with mimosas. My sister's caption read, "Last fancy meal before the budget ceremony." The deliberate exclusion on my own wedding day was a deeper cut than any criticism. When they finally sauntered into the garden venue, they were a parade of designer labels, their expressions a mix of condescension and boredom as they surveyed the fairy lights and handwritten place cards. My cousin sauntered up to me. "So is Daniel's family even coming, or is he too embarrassed?" I merely smiled and said, "They'll be here." The final confrontation happened moments before I was to walk down the aisle. Aunt Patricia, my sister, and my cousin barged into my dressing room under the guise of helping. My dress, a beautiful vintage lace gown, had belonged to Daniel's late grandmother, a fact they didn't know or care to ask about. "We brought you something to dress it up," Aunt Patricia said, holding out a garish, bedazzled sash. My sister pointed a manicured finger. "I can literally see a loose thread. Did it come straight from a thrift store?" Their laughter was a closed circle I was not meant to breach. It was my maid of honor, Jamie, who finally ushered them out, her eyes blazing with a secret fury. "Just wait," she whispered to me, squeezing my hand. "Their moment is almost over." I peeked through the curtain at the seated guests. My family occupied the prime front row seats, whispering and shaking their heads as they eyed Daniel's side, where only his parents and sister sat, dressed simply. My brother leaned over to my father, his voice carrying. Looks like the big family was a fantasy. Pathetic. My heart hammered against my ribs. What if something went wrong? Just as doubt began to coil in my stomach, I heard it, the synchronized thud of luxury car doors closing, one after another, a rhythm of quiet authority from the circular driveway behind the garden. Confusion rippled through the crowd. Guests began to murmur, "Are those limousines? I count 10. A discreet security team emerged first, professional and efficient. Then the doors opened. Out stepped Daniel's family. Not 3 people, but over 30. They were the picture of understated elegance, tailored, classic clothing that spoke of quiet wealth, not loud logos. They moved with a poised grace that immediately hushed the chatter. At the center was Daniel's 92-year-old grandfather, a man of palpable stature, assisted by an aide, his eyes sharp and kind. The transformation on my family's faces was a spectacle of instant, silent karma. My mother's smug smile vanished, replaced by stunned pallor. My brother's phone slipped from his hand. Aunt Patricia's jaw went slack. Before they could process it, a flustered venue coordinator hurried over. "I'm so sorry, but these front rows are reserved for the groom's immediate family. Would you mind moving back 3 rows, please?" The public displacement from the seats of honor to the ranks of ordinary guests was a humiliation so precise it took their breath away. They shuffled back, utterly dismantled, as Daniel's relatives filled the front in a wave of quiet sophistication. I walked down the aisle on a cloud of vindication, my eyes locked with Daniel's, which sparkled with love and a hint of shared triumph. The ceremony was everything we'd dreamed, heartfelt, authentic, and deeply ours. During the receiving line, Daniel's grandfather took my hands in his. "My grandson has exquisite taste," he said, his voice warm. "Welcome to the family." The contrast was breathtaking. His relatives asked about my teaching, my art, praising the authentic beauty of the day. My family, now hovering on the periphery, tried to salvage their social standing. My mother approached Daniel's parents with a plastered-on smile. "We're just thrilled about this union." Daniel's mother, a woman with the gentle steel of old money, replied smoothly, "How interesting. Daniel mentioned you found the wedding rather cheap. Was that the word?" My mother stammered. Before she could form a lie, my fearless friend Jamie stepped forward with her phone in hand. "And should we discuss the 'Don't Tell Sophia' brunch from this morning?" she asked, displaying the damning group chat screenshot for all to see. Then Daniel's grandfather spoke. His voice, though aged, carried a moral weight that silenced the entire garden. "In my 92 years," he began, "I've learned that true wealth is not tallied in bank statements. It is measured in character, kindness, and love." He looked directly at my shamed family. "By that measure, you have revealed yourselves to be paupers." The words were not shouted, they were a quiet, devastating verdict. Daniel put his arm around me, his voice firm and final. "You've had a lifetime to show Sophia respect. You chose ridicule instead. We are done here." There were no scream matches, no messy drama, just the elegant, unassailable closure of being seen and chosen, finally and completely. The rest of the reception was a joy-filled dream. I danced with my new husband and with his grandfather, who whispered, "You bring light to this family." My own family left early, their exit as quiet as their humiliation was loud. As Daniel and I watched the sunset paint the sky, a profound peace settled over me. The lifelong ache for their approval had finally dissolved. I hadn't been poor in anything that mattered. I had love, integrity, and now a true family. Their silence no longer hurt me. It simply proved that the person I had chosen to be and the man who had chosen me were more than enough. We had built a beautiful life, and the guest list for it had just been permanently revised.